Doctor, I would like to go back in time to see my Nan when she was younger and find out what traumatic experience it was that she won't talk about. Yasmin, have you seen Father's Day? No. Well, I strongly advise you to watch Father's Day before we go on this adventure. Okay. Okay, Doctor, I've watched Father's Day and, well, I promise I will not try to change time. I just want to see her, I just want to talk to her. Just want to meet her and find out what happened. Okay then, let's go. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 11 Episode 6, Demons of the Punjab. Now this is a really good episode. I know some people haven't been completely fond with it. I'm not sure exactly why, I've just heard that they're not fond of it. Maybe they think it's too politically correct for some reason, I don't know. I made a joke about that in the last review if you watched the Universal's video, or go and watch the sketch on the Nicholas Payne bonus content channel, but kind of made fun about that and had an evil version of that who's pretty much the a parody of the evil side of those types of people. I mean, fair enough if you're not so keen on that, but don't dismiss the entire show, alright? Alright? Or the episode even. Anyway, Demons of the Punjab. In this episode, Yaz asks the Doctor to travel back in time so she can meet her Nan during the partition. Well, they discover it's during the partition of Pakistan and India. And they soon discover that these aliens are around, and the Doctor thinks, because they're known to be assassins, that they're causing some problems. But it turns out that they're actually there to witness the deaths of people who die alone. In fact, these aliens are supposed to be the demons of the title. However, once we find out the true nature of them, then we find out who the real demons are, and that's the people on the land who are kind of rebelling against the partitions and trying to take a stand. Eventually they turn out to be the demons because of their attitudes towards some of the characters in this story, and eventually leads to a pretty heartbreaking death. And this story handles it brilliantly, especially as the character who does get killed off, we get quite a bit of time with him. He becomes kind of a main character before we even know it's going to be him. And it's also nice from Yasmin's point of view to see her grandmother's past and watch how her life turned out and why she doesn't really want to talk about it in the present day at the time. So it's really interesting for her. Also, it's nice seeing Ryan team up with the Doctor for once instead of being stuck with Graham nearly all the time. That's funny. And again, speaking of Graham, he has some amazing scenes. If you remember back to Rosa, he had the moment when he realised it was him who causes the problems with Rosa Parks. If he was standing up and he realises that, and him witnessing the events, he was pretty much heartbroken more than any other character. He has a very similar reaction here. He wants to tell, can't remember the guy who died's name, but he wants to tell him, but he can't, and he's feeling really emotional. So he's trying to make him feel better talking about the wedding day and trying to get him prepared for it. And look on Bradley Walsh's face, and also the same in Arachnids in the UK. Jean mentioned this in his Arachnids in the UK review on the Universals, that if you weren't sold by Bradley Walsh's acting in Rosa, then you should be by Arachnids because of his performance in the grieving sections, and even his more light-hearted performances, he still nails the performances. So I don't think people are giving Bradley Walsh as much credit as they should be. A lot of people are, but not as many as I think should be. Ryan is a bit more of a side character in this story, to be honest. Then again, I think Yasmin was kind of that way in some of the other ones. So it's nicer to have her being a bit more of a central character and a bit more developed in this story. And there's still some really fun moments and entertaining. The side characters are really well done, especially the two brothers. I think the younger version of the grandmother has quite a few good moments, but there isn't as much time spent with her as much as I think maybe needed. But the actress still does a good job, and the character's well done, as is the grandmother's mother, in a way. And I like that it was human villains at the end of this story rather than aliens, a bit like in Rosa. And maybe to a smaller extent, Arachnids in the UK. A smaller extent, we've got the human villains as well as the spiders. And yeah, although a big alien threat is still yet to be found, we might find out next week with Kablam, as they're in a sci-fi environment. Same with the finale, by the sounds of the synopsis. So it could be up against another big bad soon. And yeah, this is a really great episode. If there was any nitpicks, well, again, like I said, the grandmother doesn't have as much of a development as I think we were expecting. Making us think that the aliens were the bad guys in this story at first. I mean, it's okay to start with, but then it kind of feels a bit unnecessary when we find out the truth. And the fact that they threatened them earlier on, even though that's pretty much not what they'd do anyway, is uncertain. It's like, if you don't leave now, we will walk over your corpses. It's like, as Mr. TARDIS Reviews says in his reaction video, oh, if you don't leave now, Doctor, we will watch you die, and we will grieve for you, in a way. At least they lose the threatening voices when they become a bit more talkative. And when the Doctor discovers what's actually happening, she apologises and also pays her respects as well. Also, the aliens planet seem to have been destroyed, so hopefully we'll find out what that is going to be. Maybe it's whatever's happening in the finale. Maybe it's the Centre again. Maybe it's the Time War. We don't know. So hopefully that will be explained a bit more. Overall thoughts, this is still a really good episode, and certainly one of the stronger ones of the series. I mean, following the slight dip we had in the last two episodes, we're back to a pretty strong one here. So I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. I don't think it's completely perfect, but I do think it does nail most of the stuff, and it's definitely a great watch. This is a harder... This story deals with a tough topic, but is still pretty easy to watch. Unlike Rose, which was a bit more of a difficult watch, but this time round, I think the watchability is a bit more easy for most viewers. Also, it's a very good representation of what was actually happening during the partition times. Whilst the characters in this story are fictional, it is a very good representation of what was happening at the time. So, kind of a fictional version of what was fictional representation. Or image, I say, fictional mirroring. And there is that slight bit of hope that the character who sadly dies, there is that hope that he might just manage to survive. He might just be able to persuade his going to be murderers not to attack, to leave, to stand down. But then the aliens arrive and say they watch over him, and then just a few seconds later, we hear the gunshot, and the Doctor and her companions are walking away, and we can see the reactions, especially the Doctor's. Such a powerful reaction. So that's Demons of the Punjab. Great episode. Next week we go to a more sci-fi and possibly a more light-hearted adventure even though there's probably murders in it. There's definitely disappearances. So next time we'll be looking at Klabam. Or Klabam. Is it Klabam? 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 Klabam with an exclamation mark. We're looking at that one next time. I'll see you guys then. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. And lots of people are, but not as much. The younger grandmother does feel developed, but I don't think there's as much fleshed out. No, I think the younger grandmother has quite a few good, and no, all right. But she's still, and once the doctor finds out the truth, she becomes a bit more. And once the doctor finds out the truth, she decides to have... Fucking shit! Cunt! You are an ass! Can't get my words right. So, it's also very much... Also, the aliens' homeworld seems to have been destroyed. I wonder what that could have been. No. I was going to say Sender. Or maybe it's the Time War. Especially the doctors. She is pretty heartbroken at that point. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say that. The doctor's always heartbroken. And it's just... So yeah, that's a... Doctor, I would like to go back in time to see my nan when she was younger. Doctor, I would... One viewing of Father's Day later. Well, I strongly recommend you watch Father's Day before we go off to this adventure. This is just so fun to play with. It lights up and everything. So cool.